They thought it was a mistake. When the data first appeared on the screen, several researchers quietly double-checked the numbers, convinced something had gone wrong. The ages didn't make sense. 95, 97, 102. Not a handful of outliers, but thousands of women. And what truly unsettled the medical team wasn't that these women were still alive. It was how alive they were. Their arteries didn't look like those of people approaching a century of life. Their blood pressure at night resembled women in their 60s. Brain scans showed memory centers that were shrinking far more slowly than biology should allow. Even inflammation markers, normally raging in old age, were strikingly low. This wasn't just longevity. This was something closer to delayed aging. A team of longevity doctors went deeper, tracking 4,112 women who lived beyond the age of 95. Different countries, different cultures, different diets, different genetic backgrounds. On paper, they should have had nothing in common. Yet the more the researchers analyzed the data, the more uncomfortable the truth became. These women weren't surviving because of luck, and they weren't protected by rare genes either. In fact, one researcher later admitted, "We expected genetics to explain most of this. It didn't." What explained it was far more unsettling and far more hopeful. Over 87% of these women shared the same small set of daily behaviors. Not extreme routines, not expensive treatments, not cutting-edge medicine, just ordinary actions, repeated quietly, day after day. Actions so small they were almost invisible. Yet powerful enough to shield the brain, strengthen the heart, stabilize hormones, and calm the inflammation that normally steals mobility and memory after the age of 70. MRI scans revealed something extraordinary. The hippocampus, the brain's memory center, was deteriorating at a dramatically slower rate, as if it were being protected by an invisible force. Blood tests showed smoother cortisol rhythms and stronger insulin sensitivity, markers usually associated with much younger bodies. Aging itself seemed muted. The most shocking conclusion came at the end of the analysis. These daily habits had a stronger impact on biological aging than DNA itself. That realization changed everything. Because if aging could be slowed, not in a lab, not with experimental drugs, but through simple daily actions, then the story of growing old was no longer fixed. And the women who lived past 95 weren't just survivors. They were messengers, quietly showing the rest of us what was possible. And this was only the beginning of what the data revealed. What the researchers uncovered next felt almost insulting in its simplicity. After years of advanced imaging, blood analysis, and genetic mapping, one of the most powerful habits shared by women who lived past 95 required no equipment, no supplements, and no special training. It didn't even require perfect weather. It began within the first hour of the day, often before breakfast, before conversation, before the world fully woke up. They stepped into the light. Senior women with extraordinary longevity consistently exposed themselves to natural morning light within 60 minutes of waking. Not for hours, not with intention to exercise, just 10 to 15 quiet minutes. And yet, inside their bodies, something profound was happening. When natural morning light enters the eyes, it sends a signal to a tiny structure in the brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, the master clock that governs your entire biological rhythm. This clock doesn't just decide when you feel sleepy or alert. It controls hormone release, immune function, metabolism, blood pressure, and even how efficiently your cells repair themselves overnight. Morning sunlight is the switch that tells your body, the day has begun, set everything in motion correctly. Women over 70 who practiced this daily ritual showed lower inflammation, better insulin sensitivity, and healthier body weight compared to those who stayed indoors or relied on artificial light. One study found their nighttime cortisol patterns looked decades younger, allowing their bodies to enter deeper, more restorative sleep. And deep sleep is where true healing happens. Here's what often surprises people. The light doesn't need to be harsh. It doesn't need to be perfect sunshine. Even on cloudy days, outdoor light is exponentially stronger than indoor lighting. Sitting on a porch with tea, walking slowly through a garden, standing by an open window when going outside isn't possible. The body doesn't need intensity. It needs consistency. The women who lived the longest didn't treat this as an occasional habit. They did it at nearly the same time every morning. Their biological clocks learned to trust that rhythm. And in return, their bodies rewarded them with steadier energy, clearer thinking, and calmer inflammation. If you're listening to this right now, I want you to pause for a moment and reflect. When was the last time you let real morning light touch your eyes before screens did? Tomorrow morning, could you give your body 10 quiet minutes outside? If this insight resonates with you, let me know in the comments where you're re-listening from and whether morning sunlight is already part of your routine. And stay with me, because the next habit the researchers uncovered doesn't feed the body first, it feeds the gut. What they discovered next shifted the focus from the brain to a place medicine had underestimated for decades. Deep inside the body, beyond the heart and lungs, lies a living ecosystem that quietly decides how fast we age. The gut. Trillions of bacteria working around the clock, influencing inflammation, immunity, hormones, even how clearly we think. When researchers examined the daily diets of women who lived past 95, one pattern appeared again and again with remarkable consistency. These women fed that inner ecosystem every single day. They ate fermented foods. And almost always they ate them early. Yogurt with live cultures, kefir, sauerkraut, kimchi, miso, simple foods, often passed down through tradition rather than science. Yet modern research revealed something astonishing. Senior women who consumed fermented foods daily showed significantly lower levels of chronic inflammation, one of the primary drivers of aging, heart disease, dementia, and loss of mobility. Within just weeks, their gut bacteria became more diverse and resilient, and diversity is the key. A diverse microbiome acts like a protective army, strengthening the gut lining, calming immune overreactions, and sending anti-inflammatory signals throughout the body, including the brain. Timing turned out to be critical. The digestive system is most receptive during the first half of the day. When fermented foods are eaten before noon, beneficial bacteria have a better chance to survive, colonize, and communicate with the immune and nervous systems. Women in long-living regions instinctively followed this rhythm, often including fermented foods with their first meal of the day. These women weren't consuming large bowls or complicated recipes. Often it was just a small serving, repeated faithfully day after day. Consistency mattered far more than volume. Blood tests confirmed the effect. Inflammation markers dropped. Insulin sensitivity improved. Cellular stress softened. The internal environment became calmer, more balanced, more youthful. I want you to pause and consider something. When was the last time you ate food that was truly alive? Not processed, not sterile, but naturally fermented. Could a small daily ritual at breakfast quietly change how your body ages? If this idea is new to you, stay curious. If it's familiar, ask yourself how consistently you practice it. And stay with me, because what the researchers uncovered next doesn't come from food or light at all. It comes from something far more human and far more powerful than most people realize. What the researchers uncovered next challenged one of the most deeply held assumptions about aging and health. For decades, we've been told that diet and exercise are the pillars of longevity. But when scientists looked closely at the women who lived beyond 95, they found another force at work, one that quietly shaped their biology every single day. It wasn't found in a pill, a routine, or a meal. It was found in connection. These women did not drift through their days in isolation, nor did they rely on brief exchanges or polite small talk. Each day, they intentionally engaged in at least one conversation that carried emotional weight, a conversation where they felt seen, heard, and genuinely connected to another human being. The data behind this is striking. Strong social bonds were associated with lower blood pressure, stronger immune responses, and a dramatically reduced risk of cognitive decline. In fact, some studies suggest meaningful social connection predicts survival more powerfully than physical activity or body weight. Why does this matter so much? Because the body listens to emotional signals as closely as it listens to physical ones. When a person feels emotionally connected, the brain releases oxytocin, a hormone that directly counteracts cortisol, the stress chemical that accelerates aging. Chronic loneliness, on the other hand, keeps the nervous system in a state of low-grade threat, silently damaging the heart, brain, and immune system over time. The women who lived longest didn't leave connection to chance. They built it into their daily rhythm. A morning phone call with a daughter, afternoon tea with a neighbor, a regular gathering at a community center. These interactions weren't rushed or superficial. They spoke about memories, worries, hopes, and gratitude, and just as importantly, they listened. What's remarkable is how little time it took. Often 15 minutes was enough to shift the body from stress to repair, from isolation to regulation, from survival mode to healing mode. I want you to reflect for a moment. Who in your life truly knows how you're feeling? And when was the last time you had a conversation that went beyond the surface? Longevity isn't only about how well you care for your body. It's also about how safely your nervous system feels in the presence of others. And what the researchers discovered next reminds us that the body was never designed to be still for long, and that modern life may be aging us faster than we realize. What came next forced researchers to rethink nearly everything they believed about exercise and aging. The women who lived past 95 were not marathon runners. They did not lift heavy weights or follow structured workout programs. Many of them had never stepped inside a gym. Yet their bodies told a different story. Strong legs, stable balance, preserved muscle mass, and the ability to walk confidently well into their 90s. The secret was not intensity, it was continuity. These women moved gently, but they moved often. Throughout the day, their bodies were rarely still for long. They walked to nearby places instead of driving. They cooked, cleaned, gardened, climbed stairs, and tended to small daily tasks by hand. Movement was not an isolated event scheduled for 30 minutes. It was woven seamlessly into life. Researchers studying the world's longest living populations noticed a consistent pattern. Prolonged sitting was almost non-existent, and this turned out to matter more than anyone expected. Studies later confirmed that even people who exercise daily are still at risk if they spend most of their remaining hours seated. The human body is not designed for long periods of stillness interrupted by brief bursts of effort. It is designed for constant, low-level motion. This pattern of movement protects nearly every system in the body. Muscles receive frequent signals to stay active. Bones maintain density through regular weight-bearing. Blood sugar remains more stable. Circulation improves. Inflammation stays lower. Even the brain benefits as gentle movement increases blood flow and supports balance and coordination. One particularly striking finding showed that elderly women who moved continuously throughout the day had walking speed and balance comparable to women 15 years younger. And walking speed, as it turns out, is one of the strongest predictors of longevity we have. What matters most is not how hard you move, but how often you interrupt stillness. Standing up every 30 minutes, stretching while watching television, walking during phone calls, choosing stairs, letting the body do what it was designed to do. If you pause right now and ask yourself how long you've been sitting, your body already knows the answer. And the data suggests that small, frequent movements, repeated daily, may be one of the quietest, most powerful ways to extend both life and independence. The final insight brought everything together, and in many ways, it was the most powerful of all. After light, food, connection, and movement were accounted for, researchers searched for the one factor that consistently separated women who simply lived long from those who aged slowly. The answer emerged at the end of the day, in the quiet moments before sleep. Night after night, the women who lived past 95 practiced something deceptively simple: intentional gratitude. This was not passive thankfulness or vague positivity. It was a deliberate mental practice. Before falling asleep, they reflected on 3 to 5 specific moments from the day they genuinely appreciated. A kind conversation, a moment of peace, a small joy that reminded them they were safe and supported. The biological impact was undeniable. These women had significantly longer telomeres, the protective ends of chromosomes that govern cellular aging. Telomere length is one of the most reliable markers of how quickly the body breaks down over time. The idea that a nightly mental practice could influence something so fundamental stunned the scientific community. Here's why it matters. Gratitude shifts the nervous system out of stress and into regulation. It lowers cortisol and adrenaline while increasing dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin, chemicals that promote repair, immune strength, and emotional resilience. When this state is reached before sleep, the body enters its most restorative mode. Hormones rebalance, cells repair, inflammation quiets. The women who benefited most treated this practice as non-negotiable. Some wrote in small journals. Others reflected silently in bed. What mattered was consistency and specificity. They didn't say, "I'm grateful for my family." They remembered a particular laugh, a phone call, a shared moment. Specific memories create stronger neural responses and deeper physiological calm. As Dr. Emily often reminds her patients, how you end your day is how you train your body to age. Tonight, I invite you to try it. Before sleep, pause and name 3 specific things from your day that mattered. Notice how your body responds. If this message resonated with you, leave a comment below and share which habit you plan to start tonight. And if you value science-backed insights on aging well, support the channel by subscribing and turning on notifications. This is Dr. Emily, and I'll see you in the next conversation about living longer and living better.